Good morning. It's Monday morning. We've made it until now. What a deal, huh? Hey ho, let's go. Chapter 10 of the book of Isaiah is where we are. A lot of stuff going on here. God talks about the judgment through Isaiah upon Assyria that's coming. The judgment that will come upon Judah over 100 years later. And then that he is going to judge the king of Assyria for everything he's done for destroying Samaria and being a part of the destruction of Jerusalem. Beginning in verse 1, and I will probably be doing some history from the Kings and the Chronicles today to bear this out, the things that happened to Israel first and then later to Judah. Chapter 10, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, to take away the right of the poor of my people, that the widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. Always remember what the Holy Ghost wrote through the pen of James the Apostle, James the Lord's brother. He says, a pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. Those are works that not always please God. They are commanded of God that we do. And when we don't, he judges us personally and as a people. And what will you do in the day of visitation and in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will you flee for help? What have I got on me? Some kind of critters, or little crumbs or something. Crinkles, I meant to say, not critters. What will you do in the day of visitation and in the desolation which shall come from afar? To whom will you flee for help? And where will you leave your glory? Without me they shall bow under the prisoners. They shall fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Remember, his hand is stretched out in judgment. But you can take that hand at any time and be saved. But the judgment comes anyway. When he judges a country, his judgment falls upon the wicked and the just alike. So if there's a drought, you have to go through the drought too. It's like everybody else. If there's a famine, you go through the famine too. If there's a depression and recession, you go through that too. Good morning, Travis. God bless you. I hope you feel better later. I'm sorry you're hurting today. Verse 5 of chapter 10, where we were, I believe, yesterday. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. God is using the Assyrian Empire to take judgment upon Israel for disobeying the law of God. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. All of their means is how God is carrying out his wrath upon the nation of Israel, whose capital is Samaria, the northern kingdom. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I make him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. God says, I'm going to fight them. I'm going to take them captive. I'm going to burn their palaces and their houses and their temples. I'm going to just completely annihilate these people and take them into my control. Good morning, Patricia. And God is using the Assyrian Empire to achieve this goal. Howbeit, he meaneth not so, neither does his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and to cut off nations, not a few. Good morning, Gayla. God bless you, my sister. What this means is the king of Assyria, he's not thinking about doing this, but I'm going to get him to do it. I'm going to make him do it. Assyria is already fighting and conquering other people. While he's doing that, God is going to lead him to destroy the northern kingdom of Israel. For he saith, are not my princes altogether kings? And like he's saying, hey, nobody's like my army. I got the best generals. I got the most chariots. I got the most horses. I got the most men. I got the biggest army. I'm the king of the hill. I'm a number one. Numero uno. I am the high Gyrasticutus. Yeah. Well, God says that you're only that way because he's the one who makes you strong so that you can carry out his judgment. He is acting as a servant, the king of Assyria is, of God without even knowing that he's in God's service. Because it says, howbeit he meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so, but in his heart to destroy and cut off the nations, not a few. So, he doesn't know what he's doing. He just wants to, he wants to kill and plunder and rape and steal and take their wine and their gold and their women and, make the men slaves and all this stuff. And kill whoever gets in his way. That's what he's doing. But then while he's doing all this rampaging and nihilism, God says, well, while you're at it, I'm going to use you to judge my people, Israel. And for he saith, now he's talking about the king of Assyria. He's not talking about the king of Israel. He said, are not my princes altogether kings? Like nobody can whip my people. If we go back to second, and I may refer back to here several times, 2 Kings chapter 18. Specifically verse 24, but I'm going to read some of this. This is in verse 23 of chapter 18. Rabshakeh, their great general, is standing outside the wall of Jerusalem, yelling at the people on the wall and cussing God and saying how, hey, we're going to come down here and we're going to stomp you into powder. And he says, now therefore I pray thee, give pledges to my lord the king of Assyria, and I will deliver thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. He says, if you want to fight us, I'll give you 2,000 horses to fight on, but I don't think you got 2,000 people that can ride a horse. This is serious vanity on this guy. He says, how then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's service, and put thy trust on Egypt for chariots and horsemen. It doesn't matter who your allies are. It doesn't matter if we give you horses or it doesn't matter. You know, there's no way you can win. We're going to stomp you because we're better than you are. Are not my princes altogether kings? Good morning, Susie. I heard about the ceasefire in Kashmir. I pray that it holds. Our friend Pastor Susie and Pastor Haroon in Lahore, Pakistan, are not far from the Pakistani Indian border, and they've been in a turmoil over there, as you know, with all this fighting. Good morning, Pastor John. God bless you. And so, in verse 8 of chapter 10 of Isaiah, God says that he knows that the Assyrian kings are not all my princes altogether kings, and talks about how great they are. And then he says, it's not Calno, it's Carchemish, it's not Hamath, it's Arpad, and it's not Samaria, it's Damascus. What he's talking about is all the cities that he's conquered, and then he gets up to the last couple that he hasn't conquered yet, because he's planning to conquer Israel, because God's put it in his heart to do it, even though the king of Assyria doesn't realize that. He's naming cities: Carchemish, Calno, Hamath, Arpad. They are cities in what is now modern-day Syria and Turkey, but back then it was parts of Turkey and parts of the old Hittite Empire. You know, remember the Hittites, the kingdom of the Hittites. Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, her dead husband. Of course, you know, they're all dead now, and so will we be at some point. But he was a Hittite, Uriah the Hittite. They were to the west and the north of the Assyrian kingdom, and of course they were conquered. And so what he's saying here with all these cities is just, well, you know, I destroyed all these cities, and so Samaria and Damascus are going to be destroyed the same way. At the point where Isaiah wrote this, Damascus in Syria had not been conquered by the Assyrians yet. Matter of fact, the Syrians were allied with the Assyrians. So were the Philistines. But he says also Samaria, the capital of Israel, the northern kingdom. And what he's saying is your cities are going to be just like all the other cities that I've conquered. It says, as my hand found the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and Samaria. They had graven images. He's talking about Jerusalem and Samaria, where they didn't have many images. They didn't have any in Jerusalem at this time, because the good King Hezekiah. He says that he's saying that these people of God don't have enough gods. All these other people had great gods, big gods of stone and gold and silver and stuff. But he said, shall I not, as I have done into Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? He's talking about the king of Assyria doing to Jerusalem what he's done to Samaria when he hasn't done it yet. This is at least Isaiah's writing 10, 20 years before the Sumerian Empire and before the Assyrian Empire destroyed Samaria in Israel. And then after that, when King Hezekiah is older, the Assyrian army will come down in Jerusalem and into Judah and take some cities on the frontier and even threaten Jerusalem with destruction. And he says he's going to do the same thing to Jerusalem as he did to Samaria. But he's saying this, 10 years before he did anything to Samaria. Well, this Bible is incredible, man. And so this is the boast of the king of Assyria. back in 2 Kings chapter 18, I want to read what happened. The king of Assyria took Samaria when Hezekiah was a young king. Verse 9 of chapter 18 of 2 Kings. And it came to pass in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, the son of Elah, king of Israel, that Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. And at the end of 3 years they took it. Even in the 6th year of Hezekiah, that is the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken. And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel unto Assyria, and put them in Halah, and in Habor by the river Gozan, and in the city of the Medes. Remember, the Medes seemed to always wind up on the winning side. They were with the Assyrians against everybody else, especially against Egypt. Then they were with the Babylonians against Assyria. Then they were with Persia against Babylonia. The Medes always seemed to wind up on with the jelly side up, so to speak. Now, because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord their God, but transgressed his covenant, all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and would not hear them nor do them. Now, we continue in verse 13. Now, in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, so this is 8 years after the fall of Samaria. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah, is Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, the next king of Assyria. He came up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them, the frontier towns. And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have offended, return from me that which thou puttest on me. I will bear. He's ready to pay a fine, pay a tribute, pay money, just don't destroy Jerusalem. I wouldn't give him a dime. It's like, you want to fight? Be like David. You might kill me, but that's the worst you can do, buddy. You need to have that attitude. Don't ever be afraid of anything, ever. Not die. I have offended. That which thou puttest on me will I bear. In other words, you tell me what I got to pay you to keep from destroying the city, and I'll pay it. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. It's a lot. And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. At that time did Hezekiah cut off the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord and from the pillars which Hezekiah, king of Judah, had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria sent Tartan and Rabsaris and good old Rabshakeh, Pastor Haroon, God bless you, from Lachish to King Hezekiah with a great host against Jerusalem. There were over 200,000 soldiers. And they went up and came to Jerusalem. And when they were come up, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is in the highway of the fuller's field. And when they had called to the king, there came out to them Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, which was over the household, and Shebna, the scribe, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Speak ye now to Hezekiah. Thus saith the great king, remember? For he saith, Are not my princes altogether kings? Back in Isaiah. And Rabshakeh, verse 19, chapter 18 of 2 Kings. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Speak ye now to Hezekiah. Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria. What confidence is this wherein thou trustest. Thou sayest, but they are vain words, I have counsel and strength for the war. Now, on whom dost thou trust that thou rebellest against me? What are you counting on to save you? What makes you think you can whip us? Says old Rabshakeh. Who do you think you are? Andy Jackson or something? Old Hickory? It says, now behold, thou trustest upon the staff of this bruised reed, even upon Egypt. Now see, Assyria has been fighting Egypt all this time for domination in the Mediterranean and the Middle East, the whole thing. And Egypt is able to hold their own primarily because they have a huge navy. And as many conflicts happen and play out in the Middle East, Jerusalem, Judah, Israel is just in the way of these big players. And thou trusted upon this bruised reed, even upon Egypt, on which if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So was Pharaoh king of Egypt unto all that trust on him. But if ye say unto me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah hath taken away, and hath said to Judah and Jerusalem, ye shall worship before the altar in Jerusalem? You know, Hezekiah had a reputation. When he became king, he destroyed all the idols. He cut down the groves. He even got rid of the brazen serpent that Moses had made because the people had made an idol of it. He got rid of all the idols. And so Rabshakeh said, this Hezekiah, he destroyed all your gods, so who are you trusting in? Now, therefore, I pray thee, give pledges to my lord the king of Assyria, and I will deliver thee 2,000 horses, if thou wilt be able on thy part to set riders upon them. He said, I don't believe you have 2,000 men that can sit a horse, much less fight on one. But this guy's pretty bold, isn't he? He thinks a lot of himself. He is the cock of the walk. He is the bull of the wood, ain't he? Fella kind of fancies himself, doesn't he? How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put thy trust on Egypt and chariots, Egypt for chariots and horses? Now, what they don't understand is Hezekiah is not putting his faith in those false gods. Hezekiah is not putting his faith on Pharaoh, who has not lifted a finger up to this point to help. No, he's putting his trust in the living God. And so must we put our trust, not in a man, not in an army, not in a navy, not in the Space Force, not in the markets, not in trade, but in the God who lives forever, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, the root of Jesse, the son of David. His name is Jesus Christ. He is the only begotten Son of God. Whosoever puts their trust in him shall not be ashamed, for the Lord God will help me. Therefore shall I not be confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed. Hallelujah. And now I am come up without the Lord against this place to destroy it. He says, You think I don't have God? I got God. God's helping me. Am I now come up without the Lord against this place to destroy it? The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Well, he did, but not in the way Rabshakeh says. Rabshakeh's thinking about these devils that he worshiped and calls God. But it actually was God that caused Assyria to go and destroy Israel. But God has not told this bunch to go and destroy Jerusalem. He's put it in his heart to do it. Remember verse 7 of Isaiah. Assyrians will be at the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BC, but it won't be this batch of Assyrians, and it won't be this king of Assyria. They will be there as servants and subjects of the great king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar II. He said, am I now come up without the Lord against this place to destroy it? The Lord said to me, go up and against this land and destroy it. Then said Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and Shebna, Joah, unto Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, to thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and talk with us not in the Jews' language in the ears of the people that are on the wall. They're saying, hey, talk to us in another language because you're scaring the people. Well, I don't blame him, but Rabshakeh's intention is to make the people faint. He doesn't care what the diplomats want him to do. He's outside the wall with 200,000 men. He doesn't care what they say to him from the wall, especially some politicians that don't have any artillery. But Rabshakeh said unto them, hath my master sent me to thy master and to thee to speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men which sit on the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you? I love it when I get to read that. This guy is seriously arrogant, isn't he? Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language and spake, saying, hear ye the word of the Lord hear ye the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus saith the king, let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you out of his hand. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me. Then eat ye every man of his own vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one the waters of his cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive oil, all olive, and of honey, that ye may live and not die. And hearken not unto Hezekiah when he persuadeth you, saying, the Lord will deliver us. Hath any of the gods of the nations delivered at all his land out of the hands of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where we heard that? He's going to make, or is not Calno and Carchemish, is not Hamath and Arpad, is not Samaria and Damascus. They're all the same to him. He's just going to conquer all of them. It says, have they delivered the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim and Hena and Iva? Have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? You know, he's just come off of conquering Samaria 8 years ago. Now they're getting ready to conquer Judah. They failed, but that's what their plan is now. Who are they among all the gods of the countries that have delivered their country out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of mine hand? He says, I've conquered all these other countries. What the king of Assyria, Rabshakeh's boss, Sennacherib, doesn't understand is that when God fights for a nation, a people, that nobody can whip them. That's what's happening in Israel right now. God is fighting their wars. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. God is delivering them at this moment because that is the plan. And soon and very soon he'll be returning for the church, and the great tribulation will begin. You need to get ready because no one will be able to stand then. Only those who put their trust in the Lord. Now, it says, he begins to pronounce judgment on this king of Assyria. He says, wherefore, we're back in Isaiah chapter 10 now, and he talks about those cities. He talks about his mighty princes. God talks about how he's gonna conquer Samaria, and one day would be there to conquer Jerusalem, which would take him another 100+ years with a different set of Assyrians who would now be subjects of Babylon. But they'd still be there at the destruction of Jerusalem, these mighty men, these mighty families, these mighty Assyrians who had taken over so much of the world. They were a great people and a great empire, and they lasted they lasted nearly 200 years. Wherefore, verse 12 of Isaiah chapter 10, wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem. In other words, that when you finish destroying Israel, when you finish destroying Judah as part of the Babylonian army, then I'm going to do something to you, Assyria. He says, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria. I'm going to punish your descendants. I'm going to punish your descendants, Sennacherib, Sennacherib. All you kings, I'm going to punish the fruit. In other words, I'm going to bring my wrath upon your sons and their sons in the future. It says, when you finish doing what I want you to do now, I'm going to take care of you later. I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. And this is indeed a great and grievous punishment. We'll pick this up again tomorrow. I love all of y'all. We will continue with this judgment that is pronounced that will take 150+ years to unfold, that he pronounces on Assyria and the Assyrian Empire, not to be confused with Syria. Although at the time Isaiah wrote this, Syria, the country where Damascus is the capital, they were allied with the great Assyrian Empire, whose capital was over there in Babylon area, the plain of Shinar, over there on the Tigris River. You see, God settles all accounts. He just doesn't settle up right now. He says, those who love me, I will bless them unto the third and the fourth generation. But then he turns around and he says, but those who hate me, I will repay to their face. In other words, you're going to know right now that I'm unhappy with you. But it's all in his time, you see. The Assyrians fell. The Egyptians fell. Babylon fell. Medo-Persia fell. Greece fell. Rome fell. All empires fall. As are we now. And you're a witness to history. You get to see it all. You may not see it all because we may be gone very soon. Pray for your loved ones. Pray for your acquaintances. Pray for your friends. Get specific. If Aunt Mary isn't saved, pray for Aunt Mary by name on your knees. Jesus is coming soon. You know, it's okay to pray for that soul closest to hell and for all those who don't know you, Lord. But get specific. Pray for Aunt Mary. Pray for Cousin Louie. Whatever. I don't care. Whoever it is that you know that isn't saved, be in prayer for them constantly, consistently. Pray that the God of glory will deal with them and that they will come to Christ and so obtain mercy and deliverance from the wrath to come. God bless you.